Relatively flat this morning. I was down 30 bucks, but I was able to make money on the upside and the downside on Apple. I was able to use a tool that I call my crystal ball. It kind of gives me a heads up on which way these large caps are going to go. So I'll show you guys how I use that tool today. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Miguel with Market Open Trading. Now, as you can see, I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tickers, and I probably traded each one. I traded Soda twice. I traded PDD once, PayYC once, Cake once, Apple once, and actually Apple twice, long side and short side. So instead of going through all those trades, I actually wanted to show you guys a relatively easy way to be able to predict a large cap stock like Apple. So I'm going to go through those trades instead. So I'll show you guys the trades on that. So I was actually, let's see here. I was pretty stubborn this morning on Soda. That's really what caused most of my losses. I was down 216. So let's see here. I didn't trade Apple until relatively late on in the day. Now, so Apple it's got a pretty big float. So the float on Apple is 4.6 billion. And Apple is also in the NASDAQ, which is the top 100 tech stocks. So the QQQs is what you look at. Actually, I'm going to flip it the other way. So I'll put Apple here, and then I'll put the QQQs here, and then I'll put the SPY here. All right, let me back out. There we go. Okay, so Apple is in the NASDAQ, and it's also because the NASDAQ is the top 100 stocks, and they're all in the tech sector, basically. So Apple being a major player in that tech sector, there's an ongoing joke saying that if you buy the QQQs, you're basically just buying Apple, because such a large percentage of the Qs are made up of Apple because it is the largest tech company out there. So now I was able to make a long play as the market was going up, and I was able to make a short play as the market was headed down. So now what I was looking at is typically in the order that it goes is the Qs will make a move. So the QQQs will start heading down. Then the SPY will start heading down as well, because a lot of those companies carry such a large market cap that it will influence the overall market so heavily. So the SPY is consisted of the top 500 stocks. So then there's the SPY, which is the most important. The SPY is the top 500 stocks. There's the Qs, which is the top 100 stocks, which are tech companies. And then there's the individual stocks. So now, first trade I took on Apple this morning was at 1043. So overall, what was the tech sector doing at 1043? So I have the Qs pulled up, and as you guys can see, right at 1020, actually right probably around here, 1040. So right here in this candle, the market was headed higher. What was the SPY doing? It was at right here. So the SPY was at near highs. So now I was thinking right around here on Apple that I wanted to get in long over 200. So I wanted to have a stop of about 50 cents because that was the last little pullback here. And that's kind of where the 9 moving average was around. So I was going to have a 50-cent stop. The Qs were headed higher, and the SPY was headed higher. Those are my crystal balls. Those are my little helpers when it tries to when I try to take a trade and determine a direction. So early on in the morning, I look at which way the market is going, and if I'm in the tech sector, like if I'm in Netflix or Apple or just any of the FANG stocks, so Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, any of those stocks. So the Qs will help me make a decision on which way it's going, because typically either Apple will move and then the Qs will move, or the Qs will move and then Apple will move. But today Apple had earnings, and they reported positive earnings, right? So now the market is headed higher, the Qs is headed higher. You have a $200 mark. It's hit it, it's bounced off, It's hit it, it's bounced off, and you have a pullback here of about 50 cents. So I said, okay, I'm going to get in 200 shares, risk 50 cents, and you guys can see here, right at 10:43, I got in, I got filled at $200.10. And I got out 100 shares at $200.73 and another 100 at 266. It actually rocketed up to 201.32, so I could have made a little bit more, but I was up already over my risk, and it was really meant to be a scalp trade. I just wanted it to bust over 200, go, and just basically take most of it, or if not all of it. So it ended up working out just fine, just because I was able to look over and make sure that the SPY was doing the right thing that I wanted it to do. I want it to go in that direction, so it will help me. It'll catch backwind, and Apple will be able to go higher. So if you guys will notice, on a regular day, you'll be able to pull up the SPY and the Qs, and it will typically do the same thing. So probably not for the past couple of days, just because Apple reported earnings, and that kind of had something to do with it. Now, let's talk about the next trade I took. So right here, Apple 120. So I made $120 on Apple. Now, I was thinking that as I saw Apple here consolidating, I said, okay, Apple has come down to the 200 mark. It bounced. It came back down, and it broke it. Now, what was the SPY doing? What were the Qs doing during this time? So you'll notice here that when did Apple break? Apple broke at 11:35. What were the Qs doing? So right at 11:30, 11:35, right here. So that means that this massive candle right here influenced Apple to break down below the 200s, and I was able to catch a short. Any counter trend trade that I take, typically I like to take half size, so I risked about $50 on it. So my initial entry or actually my target was going to be VWAP. So down here, and I was able to catch it very quickly as it flushed down. So you'll notice here that I got filled Apple. Let's see here. Filled Apple short at 1996 as it broke down below 200. My stop was going to be up here at $200.50. It broke down, and I got filled basically immediately 2 minutes later at 199.43. And now it's actually starting to bounce back. Now, I don't typically expect Apple to just rocket up, because it might just be making a lower high. So as long as it stays below this, we're still making a lower high technically. So the Qs are headed lower. The SPY is headed lower. It's already filled the gap, but it keeps falling. So at this point, I wouldn't want to take a trade on Apple and try to take it to the long side, because there's going to be no backwind coming from the Qs or coming from the SPY. So that is just a quick way that I'm able to judge whether I should take the trade. That is just one of the criterias that I like to look at whenever I'm taking either a long or a short. Now, it's a little bit difficult to try and pick a direction early on in the morning, because if you notice here, I'm going to switch this over to the SPY. So if you notice here, it's relatively hard to try and pick a direction when the market, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up. It's kind of indecisive, pulls down, it comes back up. Like, it's nuts. So if I see a pattern that I like, I will just immediately take it, because we're not getting too much influence by the market. But one of the reasons why a lot of my shorts did not work is because the market was headed higher this morning. So you'll see here that Apple just kind of went sideways and then it rocketed up. The SPY went sideways and then it rocketed up. You know, they're intertwined. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. They just work hand in hand, and it will help you a lot to be able to know how to work the SPY and the Qs if you're trading large caps. Now, the same thing can happen with other stocks. It doesn't necessarily have to be Apple, Netflix, Google. It can be Akamai, PDD, something else. And in that aspect, you can use the SPY if it's not in the tech sector more than you can the Qs. So if it's in the tech sector, you want to use the Qs and the SPY. And if it's not, then you just want to use the SPY, because it's most likely not in the Qs. All right, hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put it down in the comment section below. If you guys are interested in learning how to day trade, also check out my course and join our Facebook group. It's completely free. I post my watch list every single day for you guys to be able to take advantage of. And I answer basically a lot of one-on-one questions, do free mentoring, all that sort of stuff. So just hit me up on there, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.